3 years ago, I protested in front of City Hall with signs in front of Mayor Bloomberg's office asking the mayor for help. My website will show the pictures when I was protesting, of the signs that I used when I was protesting, excuse me. Approximately 7 years ago, I protested in front of the fire commissioner's office. Also, those signs I have in pictures will be on my website. I've never given up all these years. I've kept in touch with Bob Hennigan from the end of 2003 until 2007, when Bob had asked me to send him a draft letter. Well, he asked me to send him a letter. This is a copy of my draft copy, excuse me. This is dated March 22nd, 2007. Bob had asked me to send him a letter, again with listing everything that happened to me. He was going to take my case now to the New York office to get the case prosecuted. Bob was denied. Bob said, "Michael, if you have an attorney, I'll walk him into the Civil Rights Division." I didn't have the money to hire an attorney. He was batting his head against the wall trying to get my case prosecuted. And then he wanted to try hard, since he couldn't get the case prosecuted in the Eastern District or the New York office. He wanted to, at the very least, to try to get a civil rights case started with all the evidence, I guess, that he had and from what his investigation showed. At one point, during the end of his investigation, when he was ready for prosecution, I had asked Bob, "Do you need any more medical evidence showing pension fraud?" Bob said, "Michael, I'm over the top with pension fraud involving your case." Now, the last letters that I wrote to the Fire Department Commissioner was Fire Department Commissioner Cassano. It was last May of 2010, and I wrote the same letters to Mayor Bloomberg. There were about 4 letters I wrote, asking him to please open my pension case under the Fire Department pension law called fraud and mistake, where there's no statute of limitations. And I'd like to ask for my case, somebody to answer to my causation, which hasn't been answered. Hasn't been answered in 21 years now. Well, the response I got from Commissioner was he called the Toms River Police Department on May 28, 2010. Here's the police report. That night I get a knock at my door. There's 2 police officers from Toms River standing on my front doorstep. And what it looked like to me was 2 plainclothes cops also with them. They rang my doorbell, and they asked me if I was Michael Romanelli. I said yes. They says, "Michael, you recently sent letters to the city." I said, "Yes, I've been writing the same letters every year for many years, over and over again. I've been fighting for my pension case." I said, "Why? Everything okay?" They said, "Well, we were sent by the city, and we're just concerned we want to make sure that everything's okay." I said, "Everything's fine." "Well, do you mind if we speak to you for a few minutes?" So I'm thinking that maybe the mayor's office or the fire commissioner's office, maybe they're going to help me. I'm thinking maybe I'm getting help. They seem concerned. So I says, "Come on in." I says, "Come on in." I says, "This is my wife, Lori." We sat in my kitchen. We sat down. The 2 plainclothes guys and the 2 police officers came in. And I showed them my documents, I showed them my articles, I showed them everything that was going on with my pension fight. And the guy, two plainclothes guys says, boy, you've really been going through hell. It sure looks like they committed a lot of fraud here. I says, well, everybody that looks at the evidence realizes it. It didn't take them more than 20 minutes. I didn't realize that those two plainclothes guys were two members from a crisis unit, crisis center, from a mental health department out here in Toms River. Well, after speaking with them for 20 minutes, after agreeing with me and my wife that they couldn't believe what they put me through all these years, they stated that they feel I should go to the hospital. So I says, the hospital? Wait a minute. Now I'm realizing they're not here to help me. Hospital for what? They said, well, we just think it's a good idea. So I turned around to the police officers. They told me, no, they're crisis workers from the mental health department. So I said, I don't need no hospital. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm writing letters fighting for my pension. I haven't given up. I've been fighting all these years, then it's the same letters I've been writing. Police officer says, if these two fellows say you have to go, we have to take it. We're very sorry. I had no choice. Now I had to go and spend 3 days, 72 hours, in a mental health hospital with guys walking around doing the Dorsine shuffle, the people that were out of their minds, that had serious problems. I showed, last summer, after I got out of the hospital, I got my medical records from the hospital, and I got all my documents and all my evidence, and I took a ride over to Staten Island to meet Commissioner Causation. I rang his doorbell. He came out and we spoke on his porch for about a half hour. I told him, Commissioner, I says, my name is Michael Romanelli. He says, yeah, I know who you are. I says, I just got out of the hospital a short time ago. I had to spend 72 hours in a mental ward. I says, I can't believe what was done to me. I was forced. I says, I wasn't hurting myself. I'm not hurting anybody else. I says, I can't believe the mayor's office did this to me. So Fire Commissioner Causation says, Michael, that wasn't the mayor, that was me. So I says, Commissioner, why would you do that to me? He says, I was worried about you because you're a fireman. I says, if you're worried about me, Commissioner, why didn't you just reopen my pension case and help me and answer to the causation that 21 years I've been fighting that still has never been answered by the fire department? So I gave him the medical evidence from the hospital that all the doctors concluded that I'm suffering from a post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of the fire accident, and from all the stress of fighting my pension case and what the fire department pension system has put me through, and what these individuals have put me through all these years, all related to my injury. There's nothing in these medical records that state anything different. For 21 years I've been seeing therapists, constant care under therapists for the same exact thing. Commissioner Causation says, Michael, he says, I promise I'll read all your evidence, and he says, I'll see what I can do. I'll speak to my attorney and see if we can reopen your case. He says, the least I could do, he says, I promise I'll read everything and we'll get back to you with a letter. On July 30, 2010, Fire Commissioner Causation sent me a letter. In part, I have carefully reviewed your case as well as your allegations in detail. The issues you have raised have been decided by the courts, and I do not have the discretionary authority to take any action on your behalf. Of course he can reopen my disability case, and so could Mayor Bloomberg, and so could the Corporation Council. Commissioner Clinton wanted to reopen it. He would have reopened it if he wasn't stopped.